HTLA Radio 1 New York proudly presents StarStruck with Kate Taylor.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Yes. Well, welcome back, Astro Meeps. You're listening to the sophomore episode of my new show, StarStruck, only on HTLA Radio 1 New York. Like other mathematical calculations relating to the stars, i.e. astronomy, astrology has too the formulaic truth that has stood the test of time for millennia. So join me every week to get an overview for us all and a bit more in-depth prediction for each sign. Now, as we talked about in the premiere show, first episodes tend to run a little long until we get our sea legs, so this week we're going to try and move it along and be a bit more concise and direct so we can fit everything in, right? Now, before I get into the weekly overview, I've got to take care of some station business, so tonight's show is brought to you by Nutrisystem. Looking good doesn't matter if you don't feel good, too. Tresemme, their new Platinum Strength line repairs up to 2 years of damage. Ooh la la. That's totally part of that looking good part. And TripAdvisor, make any destination better. Each week I'll answer a listener question on air before the end of the show. Want it to be you? Leave us a message on the StarStruck Facebook page or tweet me at StarStruckTM. Or write to Studio 2 at newyorksbesttalk.com with StarStruck in the subject line. Lastly, as promised, I'd like to give a shout out today to the winner of the Watch It With Me Facebook contest. That's right, Mr. William Constantine, who correctly predicted what film the famous line, "No, not without incident," came from, and it was in fact one of my all-time ever favorites, Equilibrium, starring and set by Christian Bale playing John Preston in the sci-fi dystopian epic awesomeness that is that film. Truly one of my favorite films. I love it. I can watch it all the time. Just really that end bit with all those fight scenes is so sexy. So thanks for playing, William, and congrats. That was a mighty fast answer too, almost immediately after the cue was posted. Well done. All right. There was something else that I'd wanted to mention, and then I forgot, and then I wanted to mention, and now I did again forget. Okay. Yeah. Oh, right. That's what I wanted to mention. We're going to try and fit everything in, but look forward to some guest astrologers coming in the future. Right there. That's what I wanted to mention. In the week that we've been a little bit on hiatus and trying to reformat the show to get the right groove and the right feel and the right voice, we also decided that it might be fun to have some notables, that have been around for a long time, guest on the show as well. So Awesome. In that case, we will try and set up somewhere where you can either have a live chat also or maybe call in to speak to them, ask them some questions yourself. So we'll be working on that in the future. If you have any suggestions of what you'd like or who you'd like, then again, drop me a line at any of those tweets or Facebook pages or emails I mentioned above. All right, now let's get down to the weekly overview. Our horoscopes this week are obviously going to run from the 7th to the 13th of August, 2015. Okay, so this week we've got Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and he's still squaring off with Saturn, the planet of contraction. I wrote about the combination and I spoke about it 2 weeks ago because we were just at the beginning end of a whole bunch of aspects that have been going on for the last couple of years. There were 7 of them in a row over the last 2 years that we're at the tail end of. It's really important in the larger scheme of things too. So we're going to talk about this challenging aspect again. It really won't be over until May 2016. So that's why it's still going to affect us all. Everyone, doesn't matter who you are. It's going to affect us all. So historically, Jupiter-Saturn squares point at recessionary trends. Saturn tends to carry greater weight, so its symbolism of tightness and coldness and maintaining structure will almost always win in the world and in our psyches as well. And while Jupiter is optimistic and willing to take risks and wanting to expand and break free from restriction and all that stuff, Saturn's totally fearful of that change or of the powers that be or of changing the status quo in any way because, it wants to keep things all disciplined and regimented the way it's put things in order, and that's just the way it is. Saturn's also also represented at times as father time. So you can imagine, what that symbolism represents. And Jupiter is the jolly and jovial, let's just have a party and we'll talk about it tomorrow kind of planet. So, when those two get together, and it's also represented sometimes by the younger generation versus the old guard. So, one wants to shake things up and make change, sometimes even just for the sake of, which we're seeing a great deal of now with this whole, and I have to say it, the whole gender fluidity movement and all these kind of things that are being discussed now. And, sometimes it's just for the sake of, because, there's just nothing for this generation. So they have to create something. And it's seeming to be this, and the old guard, the traditionalists and all these things, we're sitting here saying, well, there's more important things. You go ahead and do what you want, but what are you going to make a big issue out of it for? Just do the status quo and then do whatever you want later. Saturn, the old guard, can't understand why it's such a big deal and you want to shake things up and such in that way. So we're going to see a lot of that. And obviously now, having known what you just now know about this, you can see why these things are occurring currently, because the aspects are even leading to that perfect climate of it, right? Okay. So if you're contemplating a risky venture, you'll probably fare better after this quote-unquote cold season is over in May 2016. I'm not saying don't do anything big, especially if it's been in the works for a while. Just, pay extra caution, and keep in mind the things that I said. And, especially if you're going to be doing things in a more traditional way, you'll have a better shot at it, right? So there you go. If you have to proceed, like I said, do so with a cautious eye and cover your bets as carefully as possible. And I advise that anyway all the time, so you can't go wrong. That's just something that is always a pretty smart bet to do. And overall, I've noticed that there's been in the daily aspects, actually, like today, for example, we had a good aspect and then a crappy one and then a good one and then a crappy one and then a good one and then a crappy one. So I don't know how many of you can actually recall, the events of today, but literally there was, some great things and then somebody tripped and hurt their foot. And then there was, some funny, weird, quirky things that happened that was uplifting. And then, somebody just got into a really raggedy kind of mood or something. And it just was like that all day. It was just this huge entire roller coaster today. So that's just the way the aspects have gone. And it seems to be that is what the current trend for the last couple of weeks, coming up towards the new moon next Friday, the 14th in Leo, will bring. And that's going to bring a nice fresh start for us all, though, because Leo is gregarious and boisterous. It's the sign of, acting and entertainment and obviously ego and, pride and showmanship. So things will start to become a little less heavy and inward and a little bit more outward and social and gregarious and things like that. So we can expect a little bit less of the heaviness after the new moon next Friday. So, yeah. I guess before the commercial break, we can get into the individuals. We can at least get a couple of them done, right? What do you think? Okay. So we will start, as we always do, with Aries. And so for this period this week, it's going to be a really good idea for you Aries folks. And don't forget that this also means Aries rising folks, if you have any kind of cognizance about your chart. But keep thinking things through until you get clear about how whatever it is that you're working on is going to work. Once you get settled, you can relax and bring your heart to the equation, because this is a very important aspect as well. You always have to marry the two, the heart and the head. One can't rule over the other. There has to be a marriage of the two for whatever it is you're attempting to do or undertake to work successfully. Like that whole yin and yang balance thing. So what's about to happen is less to do with details than it does with the fire that gets lit whenever you're 100% there for things. So if you're not feeling 100% there for things, it's time to sit back and find a way to marry that head and the heart until you are, because everything hinges on your ability to put 100% into whatever it is you're contemplating right now. Okay? There's going to be various forms of stress for the Aries born, until the next full moon. So between now and then, you need to forget about everything, but staying centered in a place that kind of allows you to function at your best. So let your fears rest. They keep you down, and they absolutely have no place in anything you're trying to do anyway. So, if you're feeling fearful, a little insecure, whatever it is, Aries is noted for rushing in and starting things and then running out of steam and not understanding or having taken the time to figure out how to finish things or see things through. So don't do that in this instance. Do yourself a flavor and sit back and like I said, contemplate the head and the heart thing and marry the two until you have a solid plan to move forward, and then you can move forward. Okay, Taurus now for the next week. You've been more than patient with people and things have been testing you to the max lately. It's kind of hard to know why your current affairs have taken so long to unravel. It just seems to be dragging on and on and on and on. And in the length of time that you've been going back and forth, you've learned a lot about yourself and, even more about the other people in your immediate and peripheral circles there. So, but I'm willing to say that probably within a month's time, you'll come to terms with how you're going to handle whatever it is that major issue is for you now. So there's more that's about to come to light, especially after the new moon, like I said, of Leo on the 14th. And when all the facts are in, you're going to see that you might have put your faith in things that don't really come with enough clout to make it worth it for you to stay. So if you find that that's the case, don't beat yourself up. We've all been there, just, take a little bit of advice from the Aries book and sit back and, try and figure out a way to make the emotions match the logic and go from there. Whatever you do, don't hang out in that place of, oh, how could I have thought that, or what made me do that, or, blah, blah, blah. The only thing you can ever do when things get off the path that you're thinking they should be on is move forward from wherever you're at, So don't, whine about what could have been, should have been, etc. Just, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get a clear plan, and move forward from where you're at, and that's it. And again, the landscape's going to change after, we have new moons and full moons every month. New moons are new beginnings for things, and full moons culminate and wrap things up. So every month there's a chance to start again. I like to say every minute's a chance to start again. So, and everything happens for a reason. And we sometimes don't even understand until much, much later what that reason is. All right, Gemini and the Gemini rising. So I actually have a Gemini moon. So for me, I would, take this horoscope to heart a little bit too for things that might have to do with my emotional life. So if you can actually get yourself a chart done, which is actually something that I don't do. My mother used to do that. I don't do that. But if you can actually get yourself a natal chart done, you'll be able to find out what your rising sign is, what your moon sign is, all these things besides your sun sign that will actually contribute to a more well-rounded kind of horoscope for yourself. But for the Gemini born and the Gemini rising, you got so much going for you right now. It'd be great if you could actually pad it with a little more substance, though, and a little more depth. Don't just take all these good things that are coming and be like, oh, okay, that's great, whatever. Geminis are very, they're the airy fairies. They're the light. They're the chatter. They're the, not that they don't have substance, but they'd much prefer to stay on the surface of things and keep things lighthearted and jolly and never get too deep. They're also the sign of the twins, so there's always two sides to a Gemini, too. So, but this time you need to kind of look into whatever it is that is good that's coming to you and try and find a little bit of the substance within those things so you can make them last. Sometimes if we don't do that, those good things just flit away because we just, appreciate them on the surface. So you have to start to look a little bit into what the substance of it can be so you can hang on to it a little bit, longer. I mean, Geminis are so good at having it all, so it's easy for you to lose sight of the fact that there's more to life than, like I said, what's happening on the surface. So as far as work is concerned, though, especially, give it time, right? You can't micromanage anything into manifestation. You have to put your stuff out there and you have to let it go. You have to give a chance for, like I always tell everybody in my circle, give a chance for the pieces to move into place, because manifestation isn't just about willing things or intending things into being. It's also about taking the action to meet that intention, but then also knowing when to sit back and let those pieces fall into place and come to you. So it's a little bit of time for you to sit back. You've done the effort now. You know that things are getting to the point where stuff is starting to congeal and stuff. So make sure you have your timing down and know when to sit back, when to take action, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Because there's no amount of control that you think you can exercise that's going to make you or break you. especially now that we're living in a time when all things are really born out of the amount of love and effort that goes into whatever you're doing, to set the world on fire, because this is kind of where you're at now. And after that new moon, like I said, in Leo, where it's going to put a fire in all of our bellies, that's going to be happening more and more. So take this kind of week period of time and, evaluate whether or not it's time to take action or contemplate or let things gel or whatever, especially in the professional arena. So, all right, we're going to take our first commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to continue on with Gemini, Cancer and Leo and Virgo, and then we will find out what's in store for everybody else. So join me back here in 2 minutes.
We're New York's best talk radio, HTLA Radio 1.
I did try to lose weight on my own. I couldn't do it by myself. I needed help. I'm Amy, and I lost 28 pounds on Nutrisystem. Now I'm healthy, and I'm in the best shape I have been in my entire life.
Now you can eat the foods you love and still lose weight with Nutrisystem and save up to 50%.
I knew Nutrisystem was working the very first week when I stepped on that scale and I saw results.
Nutrisystem is based on the proven science of the glycemic index, which helps you feel fuller longer.
It's easy, it's convenient, it comes to your door. It's that simple.
Choose 4 fantastic meals a day for less than $11.
This year was the first summer I went to the pool with my kids, and I was able to not be self-conscious.
Millions have lost weight on Nutrisystem. You can too, and save up to 50%.
It worked. Nutrisystem works.
Call 888-371-SIZE and save up to 50%.
I stood outside assessing the situation. I knew it could be rough in there, but how rough, there was no way to know for sure.
Hey, guys.
Daddy, it's pink!
But hey, a new house, it's a blank canvas, and we got a great one, thanks to a really low mortgage rate from Navy Federal Credit Union.
Pink?
So she's a princess. You got a problem with that?
Hoorah! Hoorah!
4 million members, 4 million stories. Navy Federal Credit Union.
When we arrived at our hotel in New York, the porter was so incredibly careless with our bags. And the room they gave us, it was beautiful. A broom closet. But the worst part was the shower. My wife drying herself with the
Egyptian cotton towels.
Shower curtain defined that whole vacation for her. Don't just visit New York.
Visit TripAdvisor New York.
With millions of reviews, a visit to TripAdvisor makes any destination better.
What are we going to do today?
Stay strong. Take on the heat. Bounce back.
Get healthy-looking hair that stands up to styling. Discover Platinum Strength, new from Tresemme. It repairs up to 2 years of damage by reinforcing hair's natural protective barrier. For resilient hair with all its beautiful strength. What will you do with your salon-strong, chair-worthy hair? Tresemme. Professional. Affordable.
You've got it locked to HTLA Radio 1, New York.
Okay, we are back with StarStruck with Kate Taylor, and we're talking about your potential forecasts, things that might be happening, things you can do to help things happen for the next week between, what's today? The 7th? Tomorrow? Friday the 7th? Yeah, there we go. Today's the 6th. My show's on the 6th. But it's for the week from the 7th until the 13th. There we go. Okay. Now, we left off with Cancer. So there, the Cancer and the Cancer rising signs. This is for you. Okay. Too many people and things have gone under the bridge for you to be dwelling on anything but what's in front of you right now. Okay, so, Cancers are emotional. They tend to be homebodies. They tend to feel things a lot more sensitively. The Cancer, the crab, it's not that they're crabby as much as they are sensitive, which, can make them a little bit more withdrawn and can make them appear to be crabby, but they're really not. They're just a little bit more sensitive. And they're very much home and family oriented as well. So again, that tends to make people think that Cancers are, just a little bit more. But, they have that tough outer shell too, so don't ever discount them. But they do have a habit of dwelling on the past and things like that, beating themselves up, all that good stuff. I mean, who doesn't, right? But there are some signs that do so more than others. But just concentrate on what's in front of you now and not what could have been, should have been, would have been, all that other stuff. Your slate is clear and you're starting out fresh. Okay, so some of you Cancers are totally certain about where to direct your energy and, where you're going to be on a roll for the next 3 months. Your plans are either going to pass or fail depending on their relevance to your future, not to anything that has to do with the past. So if you're on the right track, then you're going to be supported. If you're not, well, that's when you're going to run into roadblocks and obstacles and things like that. And, that's always how we kind of figure out whether or not we're on the right path, because when things are just kind of going a little more effortlessly, when we're being supported in what we're trying to do, then that's generally when I know I'm going in the right direction. When things are difficult and there's obstacle after obstacle or hitch after hitch or things that have to be reworked or retooled or fixed, well, then you need to take a minute and say, well, maybe, I'm not going the exact way I should, and there's a better way that would be easier and not so laden with obstacles. So there you go. Now, those of you that have absolutely no clue what lies up on the road ahead or what form things will take, never fear. Okay, this is one of those times when you don't need to have a plan. So you can just keep paying attention and trust your gut to show you the way. And that's something I advise everybody anyway, because I know for me, the only time in my life things didn't work out were when I ignored my intuitions and my niggles, I call them. So, when I ignore my niggles, it's a no good. So, all right. So that's it for Cancer. Just, trust your gut, keep going with the flow and enjoy summer, because it's summer and you're a summer sign. Enjoy the summertime. Okay. It's going to be over before we know it. All right. Now, Leo, you've got a new moon coming up in your sign next Friday, and that's just going to give you a little bit more boogie in your step there. And, so it's going to be a lot more fun for you guys after Friday. The freedom factor is a lot more expansive than it's been for you guys in a while. So, totally enjoy it. Now, one thing is definitely going to lead to another. And now that you're free and clear, the whole idea of going places is going to seem absolutely huge. Okay. So this is a lot more about than traveling around and getting out and about. It's got to do with finally being free to move in ways that are going to probably bring more love, security, and opportunity for creativity in your life. Something that you're looking for. It's not always about, the actual physical travel, right? It's about growth in all different ways. All right. Fun's definitely part of this, though. So don't fear about that. Celebrations are going to open up the space for you to bump into people you haven't seen in a dog's age. And, they're going to show up to surprise you with a chance to try something new. Always, what I tell everybody, just be careful, but go for it. There's no reason not to go for it now. You've got everything saying it's your time to just be free and enjoy and be more creative and investigate aspects that you've probably longed to but felt like you didn't have a chance to. Now you will. So go ahead and go do it. Okay. So Virgo. Now, Virgo and Virgo rising. Our 3-year-old's a Virgo, so this is for him too, but obviously he doesn't have a life yet, so, but if he's listening, listen up. Okay. So for Virgos and Virgo rising, the situations are going to feel totally new and totally familiar at the same time. So it's like you've been here before, but you lost the instructions. So at times like this, there's nothing really to do but play it by heart, follow your gut. Taking that route is harder for you, though, than where you end up when logic prevails. But this defies logic. You're in a period of time now where, the gut is way, way more important than trying to think things out. Virgos are the analyzers of the zodiac. They have to examine every single thing. They're detail-oriented to a fault. Everything has to be analyzed and put back together and compartmentalized. And it's funny, just saying that, but you give my son anything and he'll organize it into piles by color, by shape, by size, all these things. And I just realized that now, having saying that is totally what he does too. So now, perhaps something is showing you that your inner guidance is really the only thing you can count on. Maybe you've gotten some bad advice from somebody a little bit, in the past, and you started to rely on yourself a little more, and now that's starting to prove to yourself that, that was the right decision to make. Now you're starting to see the proof that that's a good thing. Trust it, okay? If you can only figure out really how to totally let go and trust your intuition and, the universe and the fates and all this kind of stuff, you're going to wind up exactly where you need to be. So, and I always say there's no accidents. Everything happens exactly when and how it's supposed to. And even though we don't understand at the time, because sometimes things seem like they're the end of the world because they're not what we want, they're almost always exactly what we need. And further down the line, you'll find out that you're in a place that's really amazing and really awesome, but you couldn't have gotten there had that stuff that you were complaining about didn't happen. So, let go, just go with it, and you'll see you're going to wind up exactly where you need to be. Okay, now for the entire rest of my family, because my husband, myself, my daughter, we're all Libras. So for the Libra and Libra rising, this is for you till next Friday, okay, and me. So we have every reason to expect things to work out. Thank God. After a very, very, very long period of going back and forth between the bank and the poorhouse, we've finally learned how to keep things balanced enough to afford what's happening right now, right? All our ducks aren't in a row quite yet, but we're free of enough of the BS to head out on our own. This is it. We're being set free. It's our time now. Whatever we've been waiting for, it's coming, and we're outie. Changes in the larger forces that run the world around us were having an indirect impact on the timing of things. So, stuff that had nothing to really do with us and personally in our plans and things were causing the delays. And it wasn't like the world and the universe is out to get us and, all this kind of stuff. And again, everything happens. If you're being stunted and halted in what you feel you're supposed to be doing, it's only because what's meant for you isn't ready to meet up with you yet. So something's got to be held back a little bit so you can meet at that right place at that right time kind of thing. And I really believe that. So, when stuff happens, I just try and relax and sit back and say, okay, what can I do to make the most of this time right now instead of panicking about why what I want isn't here yet, et cetera, right? Okay. So you have to have respect for those influences. All right. We're going to be on our feet and ready for anything by the time fall gets here. And God knows everybody in our house is jumping for joy. We are so excited. Well, we already had so many changes in the works, and they're major things. So, like major house moves, things like that. So there were a lot of delays and a lot of obstacles. And if you're finding yourself in that boat, don't worry. It's all going to start moving along full steam ahead by fall. So thank God. It's going to be here. I'm so happy. Okay. All right. Scorpio born and Scorpio rising. Yes, that's you too. Yes. So, obviously, it goes without saying about how much power intrigues you. Anything associated with power, money, sex, position, fame, possessions, property, any and all of those things fascinate the Scorpios, right? But here's something that most people don't understand about Scorpios is the power of spirit also attracts them, because it's we get bored with the material things and the tangible things very much right away. It's something that as human beings, once we learn to figure something out or manipulate something, we're bored with it and we're on to the next thing. So this is especially true of Scorpios. And when there's nothing outward for them to manipulate or control or learn or dismantle or put back together or use like a puppet, then they go inward. And that's an infinitely greater challenge, right? Because, I got news for you. Your ego and your mind is much stronger than you. So it's a greater challenge. So if you're a Scorpio and you're finding yourself at this place where, the outer stuff is no longer as appealing and you're going inward now for challenge, you're doing the right thing. You're going along with what the aspects want you to do. It's completely fine. Because right now the interest in the spiritual things could be intensified by loss. I hope not. But, if that's the case, then again, everything is meant for a reason. And, you're being meant to, go inward and grow. Remember, we never grow when things are good and we're comfortable. Because there's no reason to. We only grow through struggle and when things have occurred or there's been loss or disappointment. So that's it, right? You could find that there's stirrings that remind you of the story of the rich man, the camel, and the eye of the needle. But you are here to balance the dark and the light. And no matter where you're coming from, it's always going to be a question of seeing, holding space for the spiritual part of yourself and, for the material part and playing both ends against the middle and somehow trying to make both of those work to your advantage. And, you can do that better than anyone. So, get practicing on it and, it's definitely not a time-wasting endeavor. It's something that you should become good at because it's something that's going to help you be the whole most best you can be. So there you go. All right. On to Sagittarians. Yes. I have Sagittarius rising. So this is for me also. All right. Control issues. Sometimes they're hard to spot because Sagittarians come across as very easygoing, right? Yeah, but, we wouldn't dream of imposing our will on anyone or anything or blah, 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 But the routine works beautifully in situations where others haven't been around you or around you long enough to, see it as manipulative, So, but if anything, right now, you have to watch the tendency to take advantage of people by hooking them into being beholden to you. Okay, it's very important. You have to pay attention to how genuine you are in going about getting what you're getting and what you want and what you need. And because Sagittarians can sell ice to an Eskimo, I often find myself advising them and reminding myself too that it's only with the truest intent for the highest good of yourself and everyone around you that, the things that you want will actually come to you and you'll actually be as fulfilled as you want to be, So make sure that you're doing that. Notice the extent to which you're using generous acts as a lure. If you're going to be generous to somebody in the hope that they're going to owe you a favor or that they're going to be so grateful that they're going to do this, and this, it might backfire on you. So don't even go there. Unless it's a genuine reason you're being generous, then don't do it. But whatever you decide to give, like I said, and whatever you decide to share of yourself, it has to be given with no strings attached, or you're not going to have the outcome that you hope for. And this is just something to watch within this next week. Okay? So let's move on. We've got Capricorn now, and they are the goats. And Capricorn and Capricorn rising. Things are coming to a climax for Capricorns right now, okay? You don't really know whether you're coming or going. There's been so much turmoil lately and a lot of adjustments being made. Others aren't on the same page as you, whether it's professionally or personally, and it's been really stressful. Either that or they're not there at all. You just feel like you're walking that long road by yourself, You've had more than your share of pressure and you're ready to pop. So, but you won't because it's not the way you're wired. It's not the way you're made. So, just think of those goats that climb those sheer cliff faces and they don't fall off. That's you. I mean, it's like we were talking about in Straight Talk. Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. They're true. Right? And Capricorns are goats because it's true. And that's just the way it is. Some people like to call Capricorns sea goats. I don't because there isn't any such thing as a sea goat. So let's just forget that. Okay. Anyway. All right. I can't tell you what to do, but if I were in your shoes, I could only handle it by taking one thing at a time and making sure that my head's on straight enough to see more about other people's baloney than my own. So, make sure that your eyes are open and that you're aware of whether someone is being genuine with you and pay attention to your own genuine meter as well, okay? And do things that are good for yourself. Do things that are going to pamper yourself over the next week. Give yourself a break. Take a step back when it's necessary. Take a deep breath. And it's always better to take the high road and be silent and walk away than engage in something that is either going to be fruitless or destructive. So, that's the best advice I can give Caps this week. All right. Aquarians and Aquarius rising. Things that give you life are changing. The things that you find important are changing. What once fulfilled you isn't fulfilling you anymore. Something shifted, and the piece you thought, could only be more important is now coming to terms with keeping it simple. So, what once you thought had to be complicated in order to be meaningful or fulfilling, you're now finding could be either much simpler than you ever made it before, or it doesn't need to be that or complicated at all. It could be something else entirely and something much more simple than you ever thought it could be. So that's a good thing. Sit back, examine what those things in life are. If you're running around, and every day is a struggle and ask yourself what you can simplify, what you can, pare down, and make life easier for yourself, because that's kind of what it's about for you too. Right? So what's right in front of you is taking on a whole new meaning. A lot of things are going to have to change because of this, but it's going to be worth it. This is the thing that you need to do. In essence, you've been hauling ass in your own little salt mine, not realizing that, you'd have never wound up in that place if you knew it was safe to follow your heart. So basically what happened was, you took on these commitments and these responsibilities and these obligations, not realizing just how binding and how hard you were going to have to work to maintain these things, and now you're in this place, and basically it's like a get up and slog and go to bed, and then get up and slog and go to bed, and that's where you feel you've been for so long, and you just want to put down the sacks of boulders and have, a free, easy, breathing life. Well, now it's time to examine what parts of your life you can really do that and make that happen, so that way you can, have a less stressful, more enjoyable, more fulfilling kind of life, The fog's going to start lifting, and as it does, you'll break free and you'll find a way home. You'll find a way back to when life was simple, when things were easier, So don't stress, because, the relief is coming. But you have to do your part. You have to examine what can be changed and then have the courage to change them. So that's usually the hardest part for us all, People are afraid of change. We're human beings. We want to keep things status quo. But nothing good ever comes from status quo. So you have to grow. Okay, Pisces and Pisces rising. We're on our last sign for today. I can't believe we're actually on time. No way. Okay, well, hubby's got a Pisces moon. Yes, Pisces moon. So this applies to him too. Okay, now the way things are going, you may wish you'd have given it more thought. You went off half-cocked and now you're learning to live with it. I don't know if that's a Pisces thing or a guy thing, but okay. Anyway, God bless you and your spontaneous knee-jerky nature, though. But you landed in a situation that's going to be harder to get out of than it was to get into. So one way or another, the idea that you're having second thoughts about pretty much is making it hard for you to remain in the moment. You're worrying so much about what you could do to fix what you think is broken that you're not staying in the moment, and the solutions are in the moment. They're not in, well, what did I do in the past and blah, 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 and what can I do in the future to remedy it, blah, blah, blah. It's in the moment, and that's where you have to live and that's where you have to stay. Your worst fears is that the sky is falling, and that's never going to happen. That's not going to be the truth. Whenever you feel like you have nothing and you're losing everything and only more bad things are going to happen, you have to remember that, it's just a feeling that you're imposing upon yourself because you don't have any clue about the unknown. But you also have to remember that these things that you're feeling so afraid of could just as easily turn out for the best. The unknown doesn't mean bad. It just means unknown. And if you think that things are going to go well and that things are going to work out for the best and you're going to have everything you need to be supported and happy, then that's exactly what you're going to have. If you think the other way, well, you're going to tend to attract situations to yourself that are going to help to self-fulfill that prophecy, even if it's taking no action where you should be taking action because you're too worried and depressed to take action. So, it could turn into something really cyclical like that. And, obviously that's not a good thing. So in the now, in the moment is where you need to stay. Make plans for your future, but not so far ahead. What can you do in the next 2 months that's going to ensure that you're where you want to be and life is how you want it to be? And that's what you need to do, and that's what you need to plan. Anything beyond 2 months, and, you're risking getting too far ahead of yourself to stay in the moment, because that'll entail a lot more things that, you'll have to worry about. Just the next 8 weeks. What can you do in the next 8 weeks to make sure that you're secure and that your life is moving in the right direction, that can help bring you some clarity to this unknownness that the future you think holds, and it'll help you to feel a lot better about yourself too if you're taking action in the moment. That you have some sort of control over what happens in that quote-unquote unknown, right? So that's all you can do. And don't forget, everything is going to, you have a lot of different aspects in your chart. Even if you're a Pisces sun, you have tons of different other aspects in your chart that can make or break a situation or determine what, direction your life is going. But if you find yourself worrying or feeling like, this is the end, I should have done this, or, how did I let things get this bad, or how am I going to get out of this mess, or whatever it is, all you need to do is take action for the next 8 weeks. Sit down and plan what you can do each week for the next 8 weeks to improve your situation and stay positive. And that's exactly where you'll find yourself in the next 8 weeks. All right. Well, that is our individual sun signs for the next week until next Friday, until the new moon in Leo on the 14th. Now we're going to take our last commercial break. And when we come back, I am going to do just a brief overview. We have a reader. It's Phyllis G. from Langford, British Columbia, Canada. And we're just going to give her an overview of her year. She's a Pisces, so that last horoscope was a bit, referencing her as well. But we're going to give her an overview of what she can expect for this year, 2015 into 2016, when we come back. So stay with us. We'll be right back after 2 minutes.
You've got it locked to New York's best talk, HTLA Radio 1.
30, 35, 42, 50.
You will lose weight too with Nutrisystem. Get great tasting meals delivered to your door. And now you can save up to 50%.
I love my results. I'm Erin, and I lost 30 pounds on Nutrisystem. After kids, I never thought I'd be back in a bikini. I'm Cora, and I lost 42 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Nutrisystem is based on the glycemic index, which helps you feel fuller longer.
I got this body eating pizza, pasta, even chocolate.
Choose 4 fantastic meals for less than $11 a day. Millions of people have lost weight on Nutrisystem, and you can too. And now you can save up to 50%.
I feel better in my 40s than I did in my 20s.
I feel sexy. I am back in a bikini again.
If I did it, you can do it too.
Call 888-651-SIZE now and save up to 50%.
When we arrived at our hotel in New York, the porter was so incredibly careless with our bags. And the room they gave us, it was beautiful.
A broom closet.
But the worst part was the shower.
My wife drying herself with the
Egyptian cotton towels.
Shower curtain defined that whole vacation for her. Don't just visit New York.
Visit TripAdvisor New York.
With millions of reviews, a visit to TripAdvisor makes any destination better.
Glasses. White Rum has a new captain. Introducing the all-new Captain Morgan White Rum. 5 times distilled for a smoother taste.
What are we going to do today?
Stay strong. Take on the heat. Bounce back.
Get healthy-looking hair that stands up to styling. Discover Platinum Strength, new from Tresemme. It repairs up to 2 years of damage by reinforcing hair's natural protective barrier. For resilient hair with all its beautiful strength, what will you do with your salon-strong, chair-worthy hair? Tresemme. Professional. Affordable.
We're New York's best talk radio, HTLA Radio 1.
Okay, Astro Meeps, we are back and we are into our last segment of our show tonight. And this is where I will either do a listener forecast or answer a listener's question on air. And this week, we're going to be giving a year overview to Mrs. Phyllis G. from Langford, BC, Canada. Her birthday is February 23rd, which makes her Pisces. And this is your year. Okay, so now, brief overview of February 23rd birthdays. I guess and in Pisces in general a little bit too. I'll give you your pat generalizations first. Most Pisces tend to be considerate and sensitive and passionate. You're also determined in your work, and once you've found the right path for you, there's very little that can deter you from it, right? Focusing on one path, however, is something that can be challenging for you as you value variety in your work, and you're multi-talented with many different interests. So, yeah, I know who that reminds me of too, my hubby over here. So you possess a wonderful blend of logic and intuition, and both sides are well developed, and this means you can understand most any concept or subject. However, it makes you idealistic in relationships, so you have to avoid the trap of expecting too little or too much from your relationships. Oh, yeah, okay. So, some famous people that share your Pisces birthday sign: Peter Fonda, how do you like that? Johnny Winter, Michael Dell, Dakota Fanning, Aziz Ansari, and Emily Blunt. Yes, I happen to like all of those. Yes, I do. Is Peter Fonda still alive? I don't even know. I think so, right? Anyway, okay. Your year from 2015 to 2016 this year, and we're halfway through it, so you can expect there's a nice sun and harmonious aspect to the moon in your chart for this year. It's a pleasant aspect, suggesting that your domestic and career needs, they're not going to be competing with one another if they had been in the past. Okay. Your inner needs are going to be mirrored by external events. So if there's stress in your outer world, your inner world is going to feel that and display that, and it's going to cause you a whole host of medical issues, et cetera, et cetera. So also happening to know personally what I know, if you're involved in something that's a bit stressful or whatever, you're going to have to take a step back, try and find a way to make it less stressful, try and understand that things are going to happen as they happen. Nothing happens quickly this year because we've got that Saturn hanging around and all that stuff, but it will happen. So just, take it easy and make sure your health and your care comes first. So don't let the external stresses affect your interior needs. Take care of yourself. It's very, very important. Now, in other areas, you're likely to be on top of your game for the most part, and, you can make positive connections with others fairly easily. There's a comfortable level of personal popularity that helps keep conflict to a minimum, because we know you've been through a lot of conflict in past years, and, you have to be able to handle your emotions successfully, okay? Because if you can, there'll be less stress on your body, on your mind, and your self-confidence, and your positive attitude will absolutely reward you. We know it's difficult to do in the moment, in the heat of the situations, especially when things are so painfully close, but that's when you need to kind of do those things most. That's when it's going to benefit you the most to keep your emotions in check. Look at things with that wonderful logic and, intellect that you have, as opposed to the emotional attachment to the situations. And remember, nothing stays the same forever. So as sucky as something might be right now, or as sucky as a relationship might be with someone right now, things will definitely change and improve in the future. And sometimes, we think that'll never happen, that can't ever be, blah, 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 blah. And then out of the blue, something happens to change a circumstance, completely 180, and, things are in a way we've not expected. And I have a feeling that, a change of location, anytime you have a change of scenery, a change of location, a change in atmosphere, a change in attitude, they all bring in fresh things that'll help to, allow a stagnant situation to start to clear and improve. So, very, very important. This can be a strong year for working on creative projects or hobbies and really making headway. So you can be more disciplined than usual if you want to use that to your advantage. And, say if you're starting any kind of business that has a creative or a creativity aspect, it definitely would bode well. But you have to stay disciplined and do the steps and make sure you have a plan. That's always a great idea whenever, we have crazy Uranus aspects that are floating throughout the year, compiled with the Saturn aspect. So a plan is always a good idea to have, because Uranus is the planet of the unexpected. So if you have a plan, you'll avoid a lot of those surprises. And since Saturn so very loves the status quo, and to have a plan, you'll be, working in a beneficial way with that. So, all right. You can find a lot of good humor and enthusiasm and spontaneity in your approach to life this year if you allow it. Allow your well-developed sense of humor to come out. This is really important. It's not unlike, I was reading a horoscope a little bit earlier. I can't remember whose it was now off the top of my head. But, you have to kind of Oh, I remember now. I was telling Geminis to go and get a little bit beneath the surface and find the substance of things. Well, for you, I'm going to tell you the opposite. You have to understand that not everything is as heavy as needs be necessary. And try to live life more on the surface and more good-humored and more lightheartedly, because the circumstances that you're finding yourself in, there isn't anything that worry or stress or heavy effort or any of these things is going to change. So stay light, keep things on the surface, keep yourself in good humor, in good health, and happy spirits, and you'll get through these periods a lot easier and a lot happier. And that'll do what? That'll bode for happier, better outcomes as well, right? Because whenever we're miserable, we tend to make miserable choices, and that can't lead to anything good. You know, it's something else I always say. Nothing positive can ever come from negative action. So if you want a positive result, you have to take positive action. You can't get a positive result through any negative action. And that even means being miserable, being held back, being stubborn, being stunted. None of that stuff is good. You know, you're not going to get anywhere by taking action in that vein. So if you want positive action and growth and opportunity and expansion, that's how you have to live. That's the attitude you have to have. You have to live it in that way. All right. So make sure also, though, that you're grounded and practical in this period of your life. Even though you try and live lightly and on the surface, don't go frivolous. You know, we're not talking about doing that either. You know, it's an ideal time, like I said, to turn a dream into reality. So if you have a creative thing that you've wanted to work on and maybe turn it into something practical, craft or artwork especially, turning that hobby into a business, definitely a great year to do that, anytime before 2016. Okay? Now, you'll find right now we're in the middle of a Venus retrograde too, so you're going to find that there's going to be creative ideas that are going to come up from the past for review and to maybe reestablish. So if so, you're working with those aspects, don't be afraid to investigate it. I wouldn't actually start anything until after maybe the third week of September, but definitely start re-examining things and planning things and getting ready to go once the fall season comes. So that definitely would be something good to do. Now, Venus and Mars are going to harmonize with Saturn in your chart this year. So there's certain elements of your social life and your financial life that you are going to find get more stable, more secure, and more reliable. So that's really good too. You might solidify a relationship under this influence, strengthen a current one through increased appreciation for the simple things in life, or become involved with a mature partner, right? Or even solidify a relationship with a mature partner too. So whatever it is that you find of value, you can find that solidifying too. So circumstances might be such that you need, like I was saying a little earlier, to handle money more carefully this year. Maybe you have a big purchase coming up or something like that, so it's really important. Or just being more responsible with finances might just come more naturally to you now. So it might be one of those things too. Definitely seek support from older people or authority figures, because they'll be happy to give you some solid advice or more tangible help than you thought was possible. You can look forward to renewing ties with old friends. There could be a new sense of responsibility in existing friendships, though. Maybe some situation that you had encountered in the past with a longtime friend will come around again, and you might have to, do something about that again. That's that Venus retrograde that I was talking about. Okay, now work is solid this year, so if you're in the working world, you can expect to see really good results from your efforts, or at least foresee success down the road later on in the fall, like we were talking about. Now, this will give you a sense of responsibility and a feeling of direction and purposefulness too. So, definitely throw yourself into that. That's pretty good. Traditional methods work, like we were talking about earlier, as opposed to risk-taking. That goes for everybody, like I said. And thoroughness will bring rewards. So, okay, practice studies, refine a skill, refine a technique. Those things are all favored this year. The approach that seems to work best with this aspect, though, is a step-by-step one. So modest ambitions and the appreciation of slow and steady progress. So Saturn loves to see baby steps, because then we're learning and solidifying these little steps. When we take giant leaps, there's a potential there that we're not going to learn as much or get as much practice or honing with that particular skill or whatever as we would if we took it in a smaller, concentrated way. So, baby steps are just definitely more the way to go than giant leaps forward. So, because there's more opportunity for mistakes and screw-ups and stuff in those giant leaps as there are in those small measured baby steps as well. So, for me, that goes for everybody, but especially Pisces this year, and the Pisces ruled in some way. All right. Good year for teaching if you're in that field, or if you have an opportunity to be a teacher or a mentor to somebody else. You'll find yourself more easily being able to explain, inform, educate, that sort of thing. You can express yourself definitely more clearly this year than in the past, and better able to see like patterns and designs and things of the bigger picture than in a while. You were focused on minutia for a while, but now it's getting easier to see the bigger picture. Okay, and others are actually appreciating you more for that ability and your sound mind and advice. Right. Now, until November, you could feel the weight of responsibilities and stressful things. And again, that goes along with all we were talking about with the aspects earlier for everyone. But I know in personal situations, if you have anything big going on, like a house move or any kind of major life change, you can expect that by November, all that heaviness will be dissipated and you should be all sorted and settled and that sort of thing. So it's a temporary feeling of being unsupported right now with Saturn transiting the square to your sun. So it's actually challenging you more to rely on yourself and tend to the affairs that personally you've neglected in the past. It's not about anybody else. It's not about, anybody telling you, well, I told you should have taken care of that and this was going to come back to bite you in the ass. It's not about that. It's about what that you should have taken care of in the past, and you should have known that you should have fixed and sorted out because you didn't. Now you're having to do it, and it's coming up now when you're in this stressful period instead of having fixed it when you should have, when things were relatively calm and you had an opportunity to. So if you have that, if that's anyway, resonating, then definitely do it now, because, this might be the last chance you have to do it, and it'll just create more problems down the line if you don't sort it now. Okay. You can bring a lot of artistry and creativity and imagination into your social life and into any kind of social projects this year. Now, something big is in the works regarding your social life, or maybe your love life, or whatever the case may be, whether it is rejuvenating an existing relationship or even making more exciting creative friendships as well. So maybe you're joining a group or something of a creative nature, and that's going to lead to a lot of opportunities and excitement, whatever it could be. It could be something like that. But there's going to be a lot of personal magnetism and dynamism in any of your relationships during this period of your life. You'll find yourself being a bit more competitive and definitely more creative. And, relationship opportunities are strong, and it's really good time to strengthen them. Like I said, fix anything you should have fixed, all that good stuff. All right. Your personal magnetism is, really good this year. You're going to be attracting new people and projects to you. However, because you're especially loyal and focused, you should also concentrate on making this year a good one for honing a skill, working on a major project, strengthening a commitment, or making a new commitment to doing any of those above things, right? Because you're better able to focus your energy and interests at this time than in years past. Okay. Now, 2015 is a number 6 year for you if you want to get into numerology a little bit, and it's ruled by Venus. So it's a year of relative contentment, relative now, right? It's a time when love is easiest to attract, and partnerships formed under this vibration have a better chance for longevity. You can attract others, like we were saying, as well as material things this year, okay? And it's a really good year for establishing harmony in the family and in the home, all right? Advice: develop existing relationships. Be positive and receptive, because these kinds of energies help you to attract what you desire. It's like we were just talking about a little while earlier. If you want a positive result, you have to take positive action. Okay? 2016 is going to be a number 7 year for you, and that's going to be ruled by Neptune. So this is a year of preparation, chance, and refinement. It's not a time for dramatic changes. So you're going to be settled by the time 2016 rolls around, and here's where you're going to get a chance to hone everything, refine everything, get everything nailed down. You can reflect on the past in 2016. Good year to study and analyze. You can find unexpected twists to your life story. Chance meetings are possible in 2016. My advice is take stock of your life in order to prepare for more exciting years to come. Yes, I did say more exciting years to come. Examine the past and plan for the future. Learn what you can from the past and then let it go, right? And pump it into your plan for the future. Get in touch with your deepest needs and uncover your personal power. Don't strain yourself in 2016 or try to expand, because that's your year for just settling in and refining what you've got and making everything work better for you so you can be prepared for the more exciting things to come in the few years following. So that is your year for 2015 and 2016 for February 23rd Pisces. Phyllis G. from Langford, BC. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, well, you can get in touch with me on the Facebook or the Twitter or any of those other places that we're at. And I can't believe we actually did the show on time. We did it. So there you go. We found our sea legs. Ahoy. There we go. Right. So, yes, I would like to thank HTLA Radio 1 New York for giving us this time together each week. My sponsors and advertisers, and especially, and of course, my staff and producer, CJT. I'm working on starting on time. Yes, I am. Now that the show's on time. A huge thank you to you, my listeners, and don't forget to send your questions and birth date, time, and place to me if you'd like to be included in our final segment here. Have a safe and super week, and keep reaching for those stars. Until next time, Meeps, good night.